least we got that part. Hey everyone, today we're talking about Texas Weapon Systems, finally. I don't know if I've ever featured their product on this channel, so this is gonna be a first for me. So let's go ahead and get into it. 2025, we're starting to see a lot of chassis systems. We really started to see a ton of them pop up in 2024. We're starting to see Bar War really blow up on the scene with all of their Zenitco clones, and a lot of people have been buying that stuff for their AKs. We're also starting to see JMac with their MMS chassis system come out with railed dust covers, so you can really just have the whole freaking thing on your AK. And I would say the most popular that I'm seeing out there today are the Sure Shots. I know a lot of people are buying those and installing them a lot, and all of which are very good options in my opinion. They're all very expensive options, but they're all good. I've literally tried them all and really don't have a lot of complaints about all of them. So TWS has been around for a long time, really longer than any one of those options that I just listed. And they've had one product that's been around for a very long time, and that is the TWS Dog Leg railed dust cover. This is the Gen 3. The Gen 3 has been around for a long time, so just to think that there was a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 before that, it has really got some miles on it. So when we talk about all those chassis systems, they all have something in common. They all will allow you to have a fully integrated railed dust cover, just like this. But what's unique about this dust cover is it doesn't need to bolt to a chassis system to bolt on your AK. So I would say the biggest benefit to this is the cost, honestly. For what you're paying for this, you could probably buy several of these, you know, a box of these for what you're paying for one chassis system from any one of those other brands. Not to say any of those other brands are overpriced. I honestly think they're all great, but that is definitely a huge benefit to this little guy. Now, I know if you've been into AKs for any length of time, the TWS Dog Leg is absolutely nothing new. These things are kind of like Ultimax, railed gas tubes. They've been around for a minute. Everyone's been using them. And any of you guys that like follow AK Operators Union or newer channels like Blue Jean Operator, these things have been tested to the freaking moon and back. And I think the general consensus is they hold zero very well when installed correctly. This is my 106, one of my 106s. This is the one that you've seen in a ton of videos. It usually has green Zenitco furniture on it. I've taken everything off in preparation for this video, but this is basically just a Bulgarian 5.56 AK. It's had quite a bit of work done, tons of videos on this damn thing, but it's a very good gun, so thought it would be a good test mule. Blam, there it is, fully installed. Okay, so if I had to rate the installation on like a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being I need a gunsmith to do this for me, 1 being I could literally talk my sister through doing it, I would say this is a 2.5. Even that is a little high. I would say honestly like a 2. The only reason I say 2.5 is if you've never taken a factory sight leaf, a rear sight leaf off of an AK, your first time there might be a little bit of a learning curve. So the tools that you'll need for this, and I'm sure there are plenty of videos, all you need is a soft blow hammer. You probably don't even need that. You could really just use the palm of your hand, but you need a flathead screwdriver that you are then going to push into your sight block. And I usually put a towel over my rear sight leaf because it's gonna fly off. It's under spring tension. And whoa, there we go. That's all you gotta do. There's a leaf spring under there that literally pops out. Nothing's retaining it, and then boom, you're ready to go. Once you've done that, you install your hinge block here. Follow the directions. Just do that. Can't stress that enough. Follow the freaking directions. If you do that, I would call this a 5-minute install at best. So earlier we talked about all these different chassis systems when, you know, if you're gonna spend all this money, some of this stuff costs like $700 plus. If you're gonna spend all that money, you get a dust cover out of it, right? Well, none of that's quick detach. It's on there forever. So the RS Regulate mount, if you were to price that, I priced out a bunch of them, and for me to get like a forward biased RS Regulate with an aim point upper, because you got to buy them in 2 sections, about 240 bucks. But you have a really, really good optic mount. And the big benefit of the RS Regulate stuff is if you have a side rail in your AK, which this one does not, so I wouldn't be able to use one anyway, but if you had one, you have a quick detach mount. You can take your red dot on and off anytime you want. That's my favorite thing about RS Regulate mounts. So this actually is a QD optic mount. What am I talking about? Well, let me show you. The dust cover is actually held on to this piece here with what kind of looks like an AR-15 captive pin, and it comes off. You could have like 3 of these. Imagine one has an iron sight on it. Imagine another one has like an LPVO on it. You could have them all zeroed to the same gun, and it's hot swappable. So let's say I'm done shooting a dot and I grab something with a scope or something. I would pop it off and pop this one on, put my pin back through, smack it, charge it twice, and per the manual, that should retain 0. So I never really thought of that. You know, the RS Regulate, if you took it off, you'd still have your factory dust cover on there, so you could still shoot it. But technically, I would still say that that is damn sure a quick detach, hot swappable optic mount. Kind of an interesting thought. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and drill a little bit and see if this thing holds 0. So let's go ahead and check it out. Now the point that I've been waiting for, we're gonna put a 5-round group on paper at 50 yards, which is what we're zeroed at. The gun's boiling hot, and we've actually ran about 3 drills up until this point, so should we have done it cold? Yeah, but who's got that kind of time to wait for it to cool down? It's not that bad. We're using MKE 62 grain, kind of a weird load. Don't know if this gun likes it all that much, but it held a really tight group when we zeroed at steel. So anyway, we're gonna go prone, put 5 rounds at 1 point of aim. We're gonna open and close our dust cover. We're gonna lock it back in the way the manual says to, and take another 5-round group, and we'll see if it shifts. The dot on this thing is the size of my head. It's quite big. So not the most precise thing in the world, but it'll do what we need it to do. Okay, I felt pretty good about those 5 shots. We're clear. Let's go take a look at it. Okay, where's my pin? So the ones I marked earlier, that was from our run and gun stage. So we had 4 nicely grouped shots. We had 1 flyer. Bop, 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 bop. This was our point of aim. Now earlier we zeroed at a piece of steel and we were hitting center, so it has shifted. So I'm wondering if it's kind of settled where it's gonna stay, and it's gonna stay there. So we're gonna go open and close our dust cover, aim right back at that same spot. And what we wanna see is a cluster in that area. Then what we'll do is we'll re-zero to that dot. We'll get it all nice and tight, shoot for another 5 or 6 mags. We'll do some drills. And before we leave at the end of the day, we'll do this one more time on the same target at the same distance, and we'll see what happens. So we won't shoot this target anymore after we get this next 5-round group. We flipped it up, doing its thing. Manual says you close it, charge it twice. That should reset your recoil rod, which really holds everything down. Same ammo, same distance, same everything. Let's see what we see. First group was that group. Second group, and there's one right there. Relatively in the same area, but I was holding as close as I could to the same point. I would say that cluster is slightly a little more over to the left, I would say. So I think what we're gonna do now is really tighten up that zero where we are hitting dead center. We'll put first, second. at 50. We're gonna zero where I'm absolutely hitting dead center at 50. So let's go do that now. Hey guys, Future Clay here. So I'm not gonna make you sit through re-zeroing, but we shot a couple more groups and tightened it up a bit more. I couldn't hold a super tight group with this dot, so we're gonna call that fourth group good. Let's see if it maintains it for the rest of the video. So we're just gonna keep blasting. And before we leave today, this is much easier to aim at than that head. My dot covers up the whole head from 50. It's a huge amber dot. Before we leave, we're gonna put it right back there and see what we see.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang, bang.
Thing is boiling hot. Okay, cool. Let's just see. If you were to touch up your zero and come back to your gun later after doing normal things at the range, would it be that different with the dog leg? We are exactly 50 yards away again. We checked it. I think that's enough to figure something out. We're clear. All right, let's go see what we see. I can see my group and it's looking good. So earlier when we re-zeroed and really tightened up to point of aim, we kind of strung a little high, but now we still virtually aiming right here have that same little trend. One little flyer. Remember, my dot is about that big when I'm actually looking at it. That shit held zero, man. So if we recap at the very beginning of the day, we zeroed on steel and we were absolutely hitting right where we were aiming. We did a bunch of shooting and actually put it on paper, and our whole group elevation was perfect, but the whole group moved to the left. I don't know if that was it settling a little bit, because literally the first rounds we shot out of this thing today were to zero. I'm thinking there might have been some settling going on. So yeah, we printed our group, opened and closed the dust cover. We printed another group virtually in the same spot. It did look like it might have went to the left a little bit, but again, the dot's massive. So we re-zeroed up here, shot this little group. That's our third group after re-zero, and then we tightened it up to be a little bit closer to dead on point of aim, and here's what we got. A lot of shooting later, and man, that is, with one flyer, I would say that's the same. What would that look like out to 100 yards? I don't know, but at 50 yards, I would say our zero at this point, after we have not been nice to this thing, you've seen the footage, that didn't change. which really excites me for this rail. And dude, if you ignore these, that's a pretty tight group at 50 for this dot. So that dot at the very least is 6 MOA, it's big. So dude, with a massive dot, I'm happy with that. And hey, if I didn't say it before, Blue Jean Operator has some amazing videos with a similar setup, doing exactly what we did, and there was no change in zero. So I'm pretty happy with it, man. So throughout the day, I definitely noticed a couple of benefits that I particularly like about the dog leg, and that's really mainly the height. I prefer factory stocks. I just like factory stocks because I run a lot of iron sights. This is on a low mount, this ACOG. It's on a low mount. I run my MROs and my RMRs and all my dots. Pretty much anytime I run anything on an AK, I try to get the lowest mount possible. And this dust cover doesn't add unneeded height where I can still run my low mounts and everything's still low enough where I'm not getting a chin weld or a jawbone weld out of my factory stocks without having to go to a more modern stock that raises my cheek weld. I think they nailed the height. Something else to think about with these, you're replacing a part of the gun that needs to be there anyway. You need to have a dust cover on an AK, so this isn't really adding a part on top of the entire gun. It's a one-for-one trade out. You're trading out your factory dust cover for an aftermarket one that virtually weighs no more than a stamped steel dust cover. This is just billet aluminum. It's extremely lightweight. You're really not adding much weight. Even a side mount on an AK is a part that you're adding to the gun, so inevitably you are adding weight. And all of those chassis systems that if you do fully commit to them and get that rail dust cover, you are adding a lot of weight. That is not saying that chassis systems are a bad move. I think they're great. You get a ton of capability. You get longer hand guards. You can really stretch out your support arm. You can add lights, lasers, forward grips much easier, and keeps your hand off of the boiling hot parts of the AK. That is the huge benefit to a chassis system, but it all comes at the expense of weight. If you do like lean, more traditional front ends on your AKs, it is the lightest way to have them. This really is a good option if that's the type of AK guy you are. It's a part for a part. It's doing two jobs. It's giving you an optic mount and it's replacing the dust cover. However, I think the RS Regulate mount being used as a quick detach optic mount is just a better design in my opinion if you have the side rail. But again, this AK does not, and there's a lot of AKs out there that don't have side rails. So if you wanted a quick detach mount and you don't have a side rail, if you have a side rail, I think RS Regulate's just the best. If you don't have a side rail and you want that QD capability, this really is the best option, honestly. At the price, at $175 a pop, you really can't beat that capability that this thing has with being able to be quickly detached. It's actually pretty cool. So yeah, I think ultimately I had a really good experience with the TWS. Rough start, but man, after everything settled in and we shot a hell of a lot more ammo through it, no issues to report, and I'm gonna leave this thing on this gun for a while, and if anything changes, I'll absolutely make a part 2. And we actually have another gun that we just got in for review that I might swap this rail over to so that we can track the continued evolution of this rail to see if it does continue to hold zero, because I'm staring at another gun that I'm about to dump 1,000 rounds through in a couple of videos. So it would be cool to swap this over to that to see if it continues to hold zero. I want to leave you with a story that the guys actually told me about this rail, which is kind of interesting and thought-provoking. We all remember the video, the Alpha AK video that Larry Vickers produced way back in the day when he actually went to Russia and hung out with a bunch of the special forces, the Spetsnaz guys, the Alpha guys, and watched a lot of them train, and he was really intrigued at how they kitted out their AKs. This is where a lot of us learned about Zenitco for the very first time. If you were to look at those guns in the video, you'll see that they're all rocking B30 quad rails from Zenitco, but all those rail dust covers are actually TWS Gen 3 dog legs. And even the owners of TWS said themselves they have no idea how those rails got there, but they got there even all those years ago. And it wasn't but a couple of years after that, Zenitco created their own B33 top cover. So I know the guys at TWS are convinced that once a lot of these went to Russia somehow, somebody maybe did a little tracing and made a Zenitco B33. If you look at the timeline and you see those videos, it's hard to deny that Zenitco probably did take a lot of influence from the TWS dog leg. So it's extremely thought-provoking, kind of an interesting story. something to think about. Other than that, guys, there's really nothing else I can say about the TWS that hasn't been said before. Pretty cool thing, been around a long time. I wonder if we ever see a Gen 4, what changes they will make. So why don't we use this video to let them know, hey, if you guys have one of these, have you had good luck? Have you had bad luck? What do you think about the price? What do you think about that QD capability that maybe you never thought about before? What do you think about the whole Zenitco thing and the B33? Do you think that story lines up? Do you think maybe they did get influenced from this little Texas company that made a top cover first? I don't know. But let me know down in the comments. And if they were to make a Gen 4, what would you guys change about it? I'm gonna think about that too and maybe drop my own comment. All right, everyone. Again, if you want to support this channel and you like what we do, go to thirdpinthreads.com. It keeps all the paid ad reads away, so I don't have to sit here and talk about ball sack razors, and I don't have to beg for your money on Patreon. If you feel this content is good enough to try to help it out financially, then you should get something in return. That's why you should pick up a t-shirt, a hat, a hoodie, anything we have on the website. It's a good mutually beneficial way to help each other out, I think. So again, thank you all for watching. I always appreciated your support, and we'll definitely see you next time. We love you, bye.